had an issue with was when she does her show with her band, she's very garrulous and she's
Right.
very funny. I think she was just, well, T-Bone Burnett was on stage.
Right.
Robert Plant was on stage. Buddy Miller, the guitar player,
Right.
is very underrated. I saw him with Emmylou Harris once on a tour. So
Very
I think
famous
I think she
session guy.
just felt like, I'm not the star here. I'm going to take my place. I'm one of a lot of people on the stage who have star power. And so there were people who complained.
Maybe
about,
that's what I felt.
yeah. The reaction I got to my review, because I raved about the show, was like, well, why? That was weird. Why was she so quiet? What, I wanted to hear her more. And she wasn't going to pull rank on those
Right,
guys.
right.
But yeah, he's done so many different kinds of music and styles of music and genres of music. He's explored a lot, and I admire him. He was one of the best incidents I ever had with talking with someone. When I interviewed him, he came to the Uptown many years ago, and I interviewed him like 3 weeks before the show, and I knew I was not going to be able to go to the show because I had a vacation planned. We had a really nice conversation. He really opened up about why he would never do Led Zeppelin again and how he wasn't that person anymore. And after the interview, he said, "Hey, why don't you come backstage? I'd like to meet you. We can talk before the show." And I just said, "Sure, okay," because we hear that
Right.
a lot. And he said, "Well, my assistant, I'll give my assistant your number and email, and then she'll set something up." Okay. Like 3 weeks later, the show had come and gone, and I was on vacation. I get back from vacation and go through my voicemails, and sure enough, his assistant had called and said, "Okay, here's the tour manager's number. Call him. Be someplace at 6:00." And
Wow.
I know he followed through, and he was that gracious and that just that kind and just a real decent.
Did you get back to him and say, "My bad"? Or
I did call her back and say, "Yeah, I wasn't in town. I should have said something." But
Right. Well, the band he has now is called the Sensational Space Shifters, and he may have said that at the time, but I've seen I think it was a PBS thing. I don't know. I've seen a special of it anyway on the music channel I have, and they do a bang-up version of "Whole Lotta Love," which sort of morphs in a different way, but it ends up.
Right.
It ends up. So if you just see that on tour, you'll get an idea that they do a variety of things. Great band. I mean, absolutely.
They came
great.
here
Yeah.
to the Midland, and for the life of me, I don't know why I didn't see it. I must have been another bigger show that night, or I would have been there.
Right, because that it certainly is cool. And another cool show and another great night at Starlight for you was Mary J. Blige and Nas, and I guess that was sort of a celebration of two albums made 25 years ago, which headlined each set, but still they went through their catalogs, played some together. Sounded like a super fun show.
It was, two people who are eminent in hip hop. Nas is considered one of the greatest rappers of all time, and she is the queen of what she does is a hybrid of hip hop, R&B, and soul music. And I didn't realize, this was the first time I'd seen her, how many of her songs I knew. They're like,
that would be interesting, because I couldn't name one right now. Well, I just read your review, so I could name one. But
but I thought I knew a couple, and I knew at least 3 or 4 more. And people who were there were just seemed so devoted to her. I mean, there was so much adoration coming from the crowd. Just fondness and love, because she's had a difficult life, and she sings about it, and it's just so open and honest and naked about her emotions that it's hard not to at least appreciate her or feel like her on some level, and her pains and her sorrows and her joys. And so I was told to expect that, and so maybe my expectations were high, but I was really, really happy I went, and it was a really good show. And I recommend, if you haven't seen her, go see her. Really diverse crowd, really just a nice environment to be in.
And they did stuff together too. Right?
Yes, they opened the show with a couple of songs, and then he came out during her set. It was probably one of my favorite shows of the year.
And each of those shows drew 6,000-7,000 fans. So
yes.
Good turnouts at Starlight, your favorite venue, as
My
you've
favorite
mentioned.
venue for sure.
And should be even better now that the weather is turning again,
right?
And we don't have the insufferable heat, but we don't. It's not going away forever. We know that. Lots of great shows coming up too, and we always talk about that. And of course, Tim Finn. You can hear him on Thursdays at 90.9 The Bridge with John Hart. And then, of course, his work is at In Kansas City Magazine. The online product is a great one. And the actual magazine itself is very well done. Also, you can catch his work there and catch a heads up on the shows we'll talk about coming up next. So you don't miss things like we have that we've talked about in the past as well. And a tough Friday night of decisions also to talk about for music fans, to say the least. All that coming up next with Tim. Danny and Tim's Music Scene on the Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, brought to you by the Exit Room of Lee Summit.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way, and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is Where Integrity Matters. Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Get a refreshing change of your expectations of a sports bar and restaurant at the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. Matt Llewellyn's welcoming spot at Clinton Parkway and Cassold covers all the bases, like their own handcrafted beers and all the televisions you need for great sports viewing. But it's the large, varied, and delicious menu that stands apart. From a favorite of mine like the awesome ahi tuna appetizer to great sandwiches, outstanding pizza, and truly fantastic entrees, the 23rd Street Brewery has it all. Matt and his friendly staff make it that much more enjoyable. Food until 10, fun until late. The 23rd Street Brewery is a can't-miss stop when you are in Lawrence. I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Back with Tim Finn. It's our Danny and Tim's Music Scene as we talk on Arts and Lifestyles Wednesday, brought to you by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. And let's get right to it, because tonight you don't have much time to make your decision on this one at the Madrid, the Claypool Lennon Delirium. The photographs I've seen of them look a little delirious, as well as the Les Claypool from Primus and Sean Lennon, the son of John and Yoko, have gotten together for a musical project, and it's been well received.
Yeah, they put out their second record this year. The first one came out in 2016 or maybe 17. Yeah, they met on tour. I'd seen Sean Lennon years ago with his girlfriend was in a band called Chibo Mato, really good duo, sort of electronic, pop-ish, loungy, jazzy, really, really good stuff. They played at the Bottleneck, and I went to see them and was eating at a restaurant on Mass Street called Teller's, which is now gone.
Right.
But and they were in there, and we both left together, and I was able to chat with him just briefly. I just said, I'm looking forward to your show. He was about as sweet as you can be.
Right.
And that was really interesting. He plays a lot of instruments, really talented, and very humble, I think. So it's funny that he's with Les Claypool is just kind of the opposite, just very, very animated and kind of goofy. I've interviewed Les a few times on the phone, and it's always a trip. But yeah, this band is it's very progressive. It's like prog psychedelic. I've listened to it. I like it. And the songs, at least the recorded versions, aren't that long, but I imagine they'll stretch them out live. But I'm sure there will be a lot of people who will be there only because they're Beatle fanatics and they just want to be in the same room as Sean Lennon. I mean, I saw that at the Chivo Motto show.
Right.
Where, just staring at him and not kind of disregarding the music. But, I mean, Jacob Dylan gets the same reaction sometimes. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting show. It'll be lively. It'll be colorful, and the music will be sort of experimental.
That's kind of cool, obviously. And somebody who's more of a fantastic meat and potatoes musician is Vince Gill. I do have a Vince Gill story. My kids lived in Nashville for 10 years, and just the way the logistics worked out, I'd have them Friday and Saturday night, and then I could go to school with them on Monday, but Sunday night they had to be home with their mom, so they'd go to school in the morning. So for at least once a month they didn't live there 10 years, they lived there 5 years. At least once a month for 5 years, I had Sunday night to myself in Nashville, which certainly is a treat. But one of the things they did was they'd have the NPR station there had a show at a local bar, and it would be generally the headliner would be a musician who wrote songs for other people. Generally, was their main way they have made a living. But every time, what would happen is that the person would say, "Well, tonight, welcome to the show," and it'd be somebody who wrote the song, half the songs for the Dixie Chicks big album, whatever. That was one that I remember in particular. And routinely, the person would say, "Well, tonight it's our pleasure to have such and such sitting in," and it would be Bob Dylan's drummer, or it would be somebody else. And one night it was Vince Gill, and that was the kind of special treat you got Sunday nights in Nashville that anybody should know and appreciate about going to Nashville. Is it's not just about country music; it's about great music. And Vince Gill, who has won 22 Grammy Awards, there's a Mark Knopfler connection with him. He played on Every Street, the final Dire Straits album, which pretty much is a Mark Knopfler solo album, really. But he's played with everybody.
Well, he was asked to join Dire Straits and said no.
Yeah, he sounds like the kind of person who would say no, and I didn't know that story. Tell that story.
Well, I don't. That's
the story.
It's the story. That's how he ended up working on the album.
Okay.
But he just said he didn't want to commit to being in a band for so many years, and he really, even though his solo career wasn't really taking off, it was in ascent, but he didn't really know where it was going. He just knew what he wanted to be, and he's like, I don't want to be in a band right now. Sorry.
Good call, because the band didn't last very much longer either.
Oh, he said it was. I read this, the smartest stupid decision I've ever made. But it worked out.
It certainly did, and I guess that's kind of a testimony to Mark Knopfler too. I would say, not that I don't have to have any excuse to say that, to say that you wanted to add that kind of badass to your band. I mean, Vince Gill's got it.
Right.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people necessarily think about him as a guitar player, but he is right there.
Yeah, he is. And I saw him with the Eagles when they were here.
Right.
I mean, you don't get asked to join that band if you can't handle it. And,
right.
But both vocally and instrumentally, he was the best guy in the band.
22 Grammys for him, 18 Country Music Association awards. He does hold one other thing he looks like my youngest brother.
Really?
So anyway, he's my younger brother.
Yeah, and he's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, as he should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a really, really decent man, too. I got to meet him once at a...
Seems like every time you see him speak, it just seems like an absolute peach of a person. So that would fall in keeping with my little brother, too. Somebody who maybe isn't as much of a peach, I don't know if this guy's been married 6 times. It can be a peach, but Ben Folds is at the Starlight on Thursday, on Friday as well. There's some difficult